Hi, everybody, and welcome to video 4 in the Composite Poster Project. In this particular video, we're going to show you how to create a blend or a fade in the photo using layer masks. Using layer masks is a non-intrusive or non-destructive editing method. Our photo will remain completely intact, but will give the illusion that it fades out from somewhere near the middle of the photo, coming down to the bottom of the photo in order to blend two images together. Okay, so let's start with the action photo. We'll use that one as our example because there's also a trick to this that we need to know, because we're going to want to fade both down and to the left. And the program doesn't allow you to do that. So you have to trick the program into letting you do that. Our first fade we'll make is the one that fades downward. Okay, so in the action photo, we'll select the action photo and we'll go up to layer and come down to layer mask and reveal all. You'll see that a little icon comes up behind the original photo and it has a little white box around it. That box means that the mask itself is selected. If we click on to the photo, you'll see that it gets the white box, and that means the photo is selected. Again, we don't want to touch the photo at all. We want to do all our editing through the mask. So we're going to click on the mask. The next thing we want to look at is that our colors in our toolbox go from white to black or black to white. Okay, that'll be important. I'll tell you why in a minute. The Up at the top of the interface, you'll see a little bit of a gradient, and we want that gradient to be a white to black gradient. And then to the right are different gradient styles. Okay, there's the linear, the radial, the angle, the reflected, and the diamond gradient. Okay, we're going to be using the linear. Okay, the radial makes a gradient in a circle pattern. The angle gradient makes it in an angle pattern, obviously. Reflected gives you the same gradient going in two directions, either up and down or left and right. And the diamond creates the gradient in a diamond pattern. You can experiment with these four on your project, on some of the pictures that you use. But for today, we're going to use the linear gradient. So I'm going to click on that. Once that's selected, once this is white to black, once we have our gradient tool selected and our mask selected, we just simply come into the photo and we find an area that we want to start our gradient at. We'll start right at the number 7 on his jersey in this particular photo. And I'm going to hold Shift and click on the photo and draw a line straight down using the gradient tool, not going outside of the photo, but staying inside the photo. Never go outside when you make these gradients. And release, and it will do a fade of the image. Okay. So the biggest question that comes about with this procedure is when something like this happens. Let me undo the gradient and let me change the sometimes when you select the gradient tool, the colors will be in the opposite direction. So let's say we pick our gradient tool, we have our linear, we're on the mask, but we click here, and let's say something like this happens. Okay, it takes out the part of the photo that you wanted to keep and faded that out and left the part that you wanted to fade. Okay, that just means the colors up here are backwards. So you need to click in this little gradient box and bring the black all the way to the right and the white all the way to the left, and click OK. And you come right back in here. You don't have to undo. You just make a new gradient line, and it will fade in the direction that you want it to fade in. Okay. This one's a little harsh. I'm going to come up a little bit higher, like to the shoulder, and come down to do the fade on this, so that we get a little bit more of a little bit more of the photo, a little bit less of a fade. And you'll see that I'm doing this a number of times until I get it exactly to where I want it to be. So I'm going to go a little higher, come down to about there. Okay, that works out pretty good. We have a nice gradient fade going on there. All right. Now remember I said we wanted to fade to the left as well. You can't do that on the same layer. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to trick the machine into letting us do a second fade. And how do we do that? Okay. Take your layer, your action photo layer, and create a duplicate of it. Come up to the hamburger menu here at the top and say duplicate layer. And now you'll see it'll come up as action copy. And you have one layer on top of another layer here as duplicates. Okay. On that top layer, we want to click on that and make the opacity of that 0. Okay, you'll see that with the opacity at 100, the photo is a little bit darker because you have that gradient going on there and you're able to see through to the photo behind it. At 100%, it's a little darker. So we're going to come down, we're going to make that 0 so that we have 0 opacity in the action copy and action is at 100. Okay, so we're going to select both of those layers by holding the shift key and select action copy and then action, and both layers are now selected. The next thing we want to do is come up again to the hamburger menu and come down and click on merge layers. And when you do that, you'll see the 2 layers merge together under the name action copy. Whichever one was on top, it's going to take that name. Your photo remained as a blend, but now your mask is gone and you can put a new mask on by selecting the layer, layer mask, reveal all. Now you have a mask again, and you can select your gradient tool. And let's say we want to fade out somewhere from the ball to the end of that image. We'll click on the middle of the ball, hold shift, make that straight line come out. Remember, don't go outside the photo, release it, and you have a fade now going in 2 directions. Okay, so that would allow us to have our close-up photo over here, and it's fading into it. The close-up photo actually we would bring up on top, and that also would have a fade on it. So I'm going to turn that on. I've already done the fade for that one. Bring that above the action shot, and now you have a nice gradient fade going from this photo into the close-up photo, and from the close-up photo into the action photo. Let's take a look at, there's the close-up photo, and there's the action photo, and together they blend nicely, going east to west in this particular combination. Okay, our last photo would be the team photo. And what we would want to do is create a layer mask again. Let's do it. We need this to be white. And we need the background color to be black. Okay, we have our gradient. On the team photo, we'll just say, come up to layer, layer mask. Remember, we're going to use reveal all. And we have our layer mask. And now we can go from the tip of the helmet on number 7, hold the shift key, come up to about midway on the roof, maybe a little higher than midway, release. And now we have blended photos going from bottom to top, from left to right, on this one from right to left and right to bottom, and you don't see any lines where they meet in here. It all blends in nicely. So that's the way we want to set up the art, the photos for this particular project and for the project that you're working on with your photos. Okay, make sure you do those blends in there, and you can you can blend the 3 together to create one composite image that is that allows you to meld photos together.